Hi everyone, my name is Patty and welcome to Relatively Refined. In today's video, we're going to get to play with some flowers, force some forsythia, feed the birds, and I wanted to share a little bit of information I learned on a recent thrift find. If all this sounds good to you, let's get started. Good morning. It is a nice, cool, and snowy day outside. Actually, we don't have as much snow here in Vermont as some of our neighbors to the south, but it is snowing right now, and it's kind of like snow globe snow where it's just sort of flying through the air and not really sticking to the ground. And I am having an interesting drink today. I have already had my coffee, and I have a new favorite beverage. When I was in Florida recently visiting my mom, we went to the Tea and Spice Exchange, and it's an amazing store. I think you may have heard me talk about it before, but I picked up this Good as Gold spice blend, and basically it is just a mixture of fantastic superfood type spices. I don't know if there's any such thing as a superfood, but you know, anti-inflammatory spices that have anti-inflammatory effects to them. So things like turmeric and cinnamon and apple cider vinegar powder. Making this beverage takes no time at all. I simply take a couple of teaspoons of the spice blend, and to that I add maybe a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons or tablespoon and a half of honey. You can always add more. And then what I don't show here, but what I typically do is I do add a little splash of boiling water to help the honey soften and to dissolve the spices. And then I add, maybe a cup or whatever it takes to fill this mug with warm milk, and I just warm it up in the microwave. I have used coconut milk, cow's milk, oat milk. It's all great. And then I just use my little hand frother. You don't have to, but I do, to zhuzh it up, and it makes a nice little foam on the top. And it is so good, and it warms you from the inside out. It is so, so good. So anyway, you could probably look up how to make something like this yourself, make your own spice blend. I considered that, but I think I'm just going to have my mom pick up some more and send it to me. So anyway, that is what I'm having this morning. As I mentioned, it's snowing outside, so I have to do something today, which is long overdue, and I need to get out and feed my birds. So I usually do suet for them. It took me a minute to find my suet cage, but my husband did find it for me, and I picked up just a pack of high energy suet for the birds. They will burn through this in no time at all. But I am going to put this in the cage and get out there and feed the birds. And I also hope to get to the store to get some fresh flowers today. But I just barely finished taking down my inside Christmas decorations. Outside is still going strong, and I'm okay with that. It's cold, it's snowy. I like pulling into my driveway and still seeing the green garland and the wreath on the door. That can stay until whenever I'm ready. But the inside is finally packed up and put away, and I was really okay with it. It only started bothering me toward the very end when I said, okay, I really need to get this put away. So anyway, I thought it's looking a little bit bare in here, so I thought maybe some fresh flowers would brighten things up. So I'm going to go to the store and pick up some flowers and feed the birds. We have a lot more snow since this video was taken, so I'm glad I got this job done. And I can also tell you that it's only been
maybe 4 or 5 days, no, maybe about a week since I filmed, and they are really having a field day with that suet. So I'm very grateful that my feathered friends are now fed. Right about this time of year, end of January, early February is a great time to cut some forsythia branches and force them to bloom in water. So I think I'm going to take a walk down, and there is a forsythia plant right on the corner here that I'm going to go and cut some branches off. Here it is. And it doesn't look like much now, but in 2 or 3 weeks in water, I will be able to force these into gorgeous yellow blooms to add some color to my home. Forcing forsythia could not be easier. And really all I'm doing here is taking the stems and cutting them to an appropriate size. And any of the little side branches that are going to be below the water, I will also trim off. And I'm just putting them in a vase of water inside that champagne bucket. It doesn't look great right now, but once it's in the room, you won't be able to see much of the glass sticking out. And of course, in 2 to 3 weeks, I will have beautiful yellow forsythia in my home. When forcing forsythia, you're going to want to select the stems, and you're going to want to wait until the buds have had at least 6 weeks of cold weather. So it works out pretty well around here to do it in late January or early February. And try to select branches that have a lot of flower buds, and they are usually rounder and fatter than the slender leaf buds. And also when trimming the stems, try to do it about 1.5 inches from the bottom, and I try to cut at an angle to increase surface area so that they can absorb the water. Then I just put them in the water and I wait for the magic to happen. And speaking of blooms, let's go check out my local grocery store and see if we can't find some inexpensive flowers to make a bouquet. Or possibly 2, or maybe even 3. I was actually pleasantly surprised at the selection at my local grocery store. And they were having a sale, 3 packages for $15. So I really took a long look around. I loved the tulips. They were not part of the sale, although they were very reasonably priced. But I did pass on them. And then I had to come over to this side to look at all the greens. There's cyclamen. And aren't these bouquets gorgeous? I used these to get some ideas for some color combinations.
Okay, it's the next day and I'm crouching down so I can be in the camera. But I wanted to show you, I picked up some grocery store flowers. And I am showing you, I'm wearing my coat. I didn't take it off because I wanted to show this to you. I don't know if I showed this to you already, but I got this from a free pile. It's a Banana Republic wool coat in this gorgeous camel color or tan color. And it was in the free pile because it had a big stain on the inside, which I actually was able to get out. But it is too small for me. It is too small in the arms for me. It's a small. I would generally wear a medium, but it is really warm. It's chilly today, and I just love this coat. It's got such a, I don't know if you can, but it's got this nice little cut to it. So anyway, I'm leaving this on while I decorate flowers. I'm having some coffee out of this cute little heart mug. That was a gift from my mom. She got me a pair of these actually several years ago. And I love to drink from these. I drink from these about this time of year, especially into February, because they remind me of Valentine's Day, of course. So anyway, I'm going to get started. I picked up some flowers just at the grocery store, and they were three bundles for $12. And I really wanted tulips, but they were not part of the special. So got some really pretty green. I don't know what any of these are. Delphinium. And I think these are, I don't know what these are, but you see these in bouquets all the time. They last a really long time. I think, are they Astromeria? I'm not sure. But anyway, I thought pink with the blue delphinium and just some greens would be a nice way to add a little bit of color to the house. Pack of floral preservative that I'm going to add to my warm water. And this should be enough to get a couple of bouquets out. And if you ask for the paper, when you go to the grocery store or the florist, it works great to lay out and put your cuttings on. Just keeps things neat and tidy. And if you have more than one floral preservative packet, just stash it aside and you can use them in your next bouquet. Okay, so let me just show you what this looks like with the delphinium and these pink, I don't know if they're dianthus, but my favorite part are these really pretty greens. Don't sleep on the floral filler, the greens. I think that's what elevates a bouquet and makes it gorgeous. So I might fill this out a little bit more, and then I'm going to go ahead and put this somewhere. I'll show you when I decide.
I am pretty pleased with how this turned out. Again, I think the addition of the greens made a really big difference. I initially put it here on my hunt board, which I think is beautiful because I love the mirror behind it. It exaggerates the size and gives a nice three-dimensional look. But I also really liked it over here in my living room. I'm sorry about the lighting. The lighting in my living room is bad. There's no way around it. But it also looked really pretty in my dining room. So I had a lot of options with this. After looking at it in all different locations, I did decide to leave it on my hunt board, but I think it needed some help. So we're outside. I'm going to cut some boxwood or maybe some cedar to add to my bouquet. Just such a beautiful day out here, and so it's cold. It's cold, but I'm going to go cut some, boxwood and cedar to add to my little bouquet. So you see what a difference adding boxwood or any type of live green makes. I think it just elevates the bouquet. So these were some of the leftover flowers, just grocery store flowers, and there were a few left over, and they were so sad looking in here, but I just added some boxwood and I think it looks so beautiful. And I love this pressed glass vase, sort of Art Deco pattern. I think it's so pretty. So that I think looks beautiful in here. I do need to clean off the top of the table where it has been shedding, but I think it looks great. It's a beautiful sunny winter day out there. And here's that forsythia. It's going to take a few weeks to force the blooms, but They will come. I just thought I would walk with you to take these extra boxwood scraps and just toss them over the fence into my compost pile. And there's the suet feeder we hung earlier. I even added a few flowers to my tulipier. Many of you kindly commented on these little Royal Worcester Evesham clamshell dishes that I showed in a previous video, and I wondered what they might be used for. So I decided to do a little research. Well, many of you suggested they would be great for nuts or candy. I do believe they probably are intended to use for some type of seafood, which many of you suggested. And incidentally, the little dot on the end of there is not a hole, it's actually just a little gold dot. So I'm not sure what purpose it serves or if it's just decorative, but that is all that is. So I'm going to tell you what I found out in my research about Royal Worcester, specifically the Evesham pattern that I'm showing right here. Now, I couldn't find any specific information about this particular dish, these little clamshell dishes. I just couldn't find much information on them. But I did discover that there is actually a Museum of Royal Worcester. And their website, museumofroyalworcester.org, is where I obtained most of this historical information. I will link it in the description box below so you can go ahead down that rabbit hole and do a little research yourself. Royal Worcester's Evesham pattern was introduced in 1961 as the beginning of a new trend for more informal dining that was to bring the humble casserole dish from the kitchen to the dining table. Evesham, named after the local fruit-growing region near Worcester, was Royal Worcester's best-selling brand of the late 20th century. The original painted fruit sprays were painted by Professor Baker, Ronald van Rijkeveld, Peter Ewens, and other members of the team in the Royal Worcester Design Department. Apples, pears, cherries, damsons, and blackberries were just a few of the colorful fruit sprays developed. These original designs were then faithfully reproduced using an 18th century technique in which lithographic stones were painstakingly engraved to reveal an impression of the original artwork for transfer to the porcelain. The design was first proofed in 1961. The design department worked on the pattern throughout 1961 and 62 until 5 items were fully introduced in 1962. The artwork was reproduced in 26 colors using lithographic prints, and items were finished with hand-applied gilding. The rich fruit pattern was immediately popular, and the number of items in the Evesham range was gradually extended. By 1965, a large range of porcelain cookware was available, including casseroles, ramekins, saucepans, soufflé cases, and flan dishes. In 1967, a range of boxed giftware items were introduced. In 1968, hard porcelain tableware was introduced in the Severn shape, designed by Neil French. In 1980, a range of Evesham cutlery was developed. Public demand for porcelain to use in the microwave inspired the introduction of Evesham Vale, which has a green rather than gold edging, in 1987. In 1992, Peter Ewens stated after 30 years, Evesham could be seen in 1 in 5 households in the UK. 1994 saw the introduction of the Classic Gift Collection. This range of functional, attractive items included a crudité dish, wall clock, scallop bowls, and a mint tray. In 1996, the pattern selection was altered, increasing the number of fruit sprays on each item to produce a greater density of decoration. Evesham was now sold all over the world. New items were added to the range over the years, such as a pizza plate and spaghetti jar, reflecting changes in lifestyle and culinary habits. Giftware items were very successful, with the crudité and shell dish among the top-selling lines within the range. And while I wasn't able to find a lot of information on my specific shell dishes, I really enjoyed learning about the history of the Royal Worcester Evesham pattern. And I did learn that while ubiquitous, it's still very much coveted. People still really appreciate this pattern, and collectors abound. If you go on any of the secondary market sites, you will find so many interesting pieces, and so many of them fetch a really good price. So I'm going to hang on to these beautiful dishes, and I will covet them as well. And as an interesting aside, in 2009, Porcelain Group acquired the Royal Worcester brand and intellectual property. It's very funny because I also love Porcelain as well as the Royal Worcester Evesham collection, and I see some similarities there. So I thought that was an interesting side note. And that, my friends, is what I have for you today. As always, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up. Go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so and hit that notification bell so you won't miss another upload. Thanks again, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye-bye now.